The knock on my door came in the middle of a quiet afternoon. I had been sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, half working and half staring out the window at the small maple tree in my yard. The kind of slow day where nothing much happens. When I opened the door, a police officer stood on the porch. He wasn't aggressive, just alert in the way people are when they've been given incomplete information. "Good afternoon," he said. "Are you Miss Harper?"
Yes.
He glanced briefly toward the street. That's when I noticed my sister's car parked across the road. A strange calm settled over me almost immediately. "We received a call," the officer continued carefully. "Someone reported concerns about your behavior. They said you might be unstable and a potential danger around children." The sentence hung in the air for a moment. I didn't feel angry yet. Mostly I felt tired. My sister and I had been circling the same arguments for months, about boundaries, about her habit of dropping her kids off with no notice, about my refusal to rearrange my life every time she needed help. Saying no had never gone over well. Still, hearing it framed this way was different. Dangerous. Unstable. I looked at the officer for a few seconds before stepping aside. "Please come in," I said. He hesitated slightly, then walked into the living room. The house was quiet, clean. Nothing out of place except the stack of papers I'd been working on at the table. "I just need to make sure everything's all right," he said. "I understand." I gestured toward the couch. "Would you mind sitting for a moment? There's something I think you should see." His expression shifted slightly. Curious but cautious. I walked over to the television and connected my laptop with a cable. For a moment neither of us spoke. "Your sister sounded very concerned on the phone," he said eventually. "I'm sure she did." I opened a folder on my computer. Over the last few months, I had started documenting certain conversations. At first it was mostly messages, screenshots of texts where she demanded favors, accused me of selfishness when I said no. Then one evening she had come over angry. Very angry. And I had quietly recorded the conversation on my phone, not because I expected this situation, but because something about that night had made me realize I might eventually need proof of what was really happening. The officer leaned forward slightly as the screen lit up. "What is this?" he asked. "A conversation from a few weeks ago." I pressed play. The video showed my living room. My sister pacing near the window, her voice sharp with frustration. "You think you can just say no," she said in the recording. "You've always helped before." My voice replied off camera. "Exactly," she snapped. "Which is why you're going to keep helping." There was a long pause. Then the sentence that made everything clear. "Honestly, if you keep acting like this, I'll just tell people you're unstable." You know how easy that would be. The officer's expression changed almost immediately. He didn't interrupt the recording. In the video my sister continued talking, growing more agitated as the conversation went on, complaining about how family should support each other, about how unfair it was that I wouldn't rearrange my schedule to watch her children whenever she asked. Finally she said something quieter, almost casual. "If I really wanted to push it, I could call someone. Say you're acting weird around the kids. People believe that stuff." The video ended. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. The officer sat back slowly. "How long ago was this?" he asked. 3 weeks. He nodded once. Through the front window we could both see my sister standing beside her car now, arms folded, watching the house. She looked impatient. Maybe she expected the visit to end quickly. Maybe she expected the officer to come back with questions for me instead. The officer stood. "I'm going to step outside for a moment," he said. I didn't follow. Instead I remained at the kitchen table while their conversation unfolded across the yard. From inside I couldn't hear every word, but I could see the shift in posture. At first my sister spoke quickly, gesturing toward the house. Then the officer said something that made her stop. A few seconds later he pointed back toward the door. Toward the house. toward the place where the recording had been played. Her expression changed, not dramatically. Just the small collapse of certainty that happens when a story stops working. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes after that. When the officer returned to the porch, my sister was already climbing into her car. He stepped inside briefly. "Everything here seems fine," he said. I nodded. He hesitated before adding one more thing. "Misusing emergency services can create complications people don't always anticipate." "I understand." He gave a small professional nod and left. I watched from the doorway as his car pulled away. My sister drove off in the opposite direction without looking back. The street returned to its normal quiet. Inside the house, the television screen had gone dark again. I sat down at the table and closed the laptop. For a long time I just listened to the quiet. It wasn't the kind of moment that felt like victory, more like the slow realization that some relationships change shape the moment the truth becomes visible.